Okay, let's have a look at Richard's. Okay, that's a good sentence. Scotland plays a very important role in the United Kingdom of Great Britain all the time. All the time is not very good academic style. Not only it enhances, not only does it enhance British political influence. Okay, if you say it enhances British political influence, you probably need to say in what way it enhances British political influence. You could do this very, very concisely. You could say, for example, adding to its size and gross domestic product. The union with Scotland not only enhances British political influence, but also benefits British economic development. Okay, that's good, but I'm feeling like this came from a source, so I'm feeling like this is actually plagiarism. Somewhere you read that the Union was in 1707, and somewhere you read that Scotland is beneficial to British economic development, and you haven't referenced it. So, yeah, I think you need some references there. Okay, with the Scottish National Party, wrong grammar there, becoming the largest party, if you're going to use that grammar. Some people really agree that Scotland should be independent. Okay, not very good academic style there. Well, more citizens strongly disagree about that, preferring to keep it united. Again, you're talking about the people. You should be talking about the arguments. Arguments for Scottish independence, arguments against Scottish independence. It really has nothing to do with the people. Or at least the question doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the people. You could make it about the people, but you're just assuming that it's about the people by talking about it like this. Try to be objective and try to keep it as a more philosophical or objective economic argument, something like that. You might look at it from economic, political, cultural perspectives, but not just the voters. You don't need to say the essay will aim. The result was that the disagree side won. This is not a very academic way of saying it, so find a better way to say that. It's good that you've got a reference. Although, if you could actually find a more official source than BBC News, that would be ideal, as it's your first reference, but BBC is okay for that kind of thing. You don't need to say the essay will aim, just that the essay aims, or the essay discusses. This essay will discuss why Scotland should not be independent and the negative aspects if it is independent. It seems then that you're not looking at the potential positive impacts on Scotland, and I think you should mention those things. So from this outline, it looks like you've got no counter-argument. For the Scottish, at least for the Scottish, I think there are powerful arguments for Scottish independence, particularly North Sea oil and the economic ones. So to ignore those and only argue why it should not be independent would make it a one-sided answer, and you should really examine both sides, because this is very, very much a discussion question. So overall, I think you've got a bit of plagiarism at the beginning, because you've got some unreferenced source there that you've clearly read somewhere. Then you've got a good source here. That's fine. I don't think you really need to talk about people exactly. You can mention that this happened, but this is something we all know. So try not to give the vote central importance in the essay. Try to look at the arguments for and against independence objectively. Okay, let's look at the feedback. Yeah, I think it's better to use present perfect. Be more formal in the disagree part, I agree. Arguments against, or what did you have? Disagree part. I'm not sure what they're talking about, disagree part there, but anyway. I agree. That is a good reference. Good. Okay. So let's look at Tianhao. Should Scotland be independent? Okay, that may be true, but you would need a reference for that, and you need to leave a space. In our parliament election, you could say which one it was. Means any, but I suppose there was one particular victory when the SNP got more power. As a forward step after the referendum for devolution in '79 and the one in '97, you need references for these. And bear in mind the reader is an educated native, but not somebody who knows what these referendums for devolution were. So if you're going to talk about something like that, briefly explain, very briefly. Okay, different opinions. You're using some, not the most academic. Rather than opinions, it's better to focus on arguments. Okay, so you've given your thesis here, that's fine. Looking at the pros of devolution instead of independence. Then show the negative impacts. Lastly, it will estimate economic problems. Okay, fair enough. But you're not saying that you're actually evaluating the arguments for independence, which makes your essay a little bit one-sided. It looks like you're arguing with no counter-argument. But remember, in a question like this, it's nice to have a counter-argument and a rebuttal section as well. Okay, so language is quite good. I think you're missing quite a lot of references. And it looks one-sided to me, so maybe you can improve that. Sean's right. The first time you mention SNP, okay. Actually, you've got it there, the Scottish National Party. Yes, put the Scottish National Party first, I agree with that. So put this first, and then in brackets you can put SNP, and then you can use SNP afterwards. So Sean's right about the order in which that should happen. Yes, Sean actually realized that it was too one-sided. So that's a very, very good piece of advice there. Well done, Sean. So what Sean did there was he actually found a mistake that I hadn't noticed. And he also pointed out a very important part of the structure of your essay that's missing. So that's very, very good. And what that means is that Sean is developing some very, very good critical thinking skills and the ability to think about structure, which he'll then be able to apply to his essay. So it would be very good if we could see everybody leaving comments like these ones by Sean. Very good studentship there. Okay, moving on. Okay, here I can't see the question, so I can't quite know if you're answering it correctly or not. But anyway, English is like no other language in its current role internationally. Indeed, like no other in any moment in history. Okay, you've got a quote, but you don't have a page number here. I hope somebody's picked that up for you. Bear in mind that the teacher doesn't find all the mistakes, because sometimes there are too many mistakes to find, and your peers won't find every mistake, so you also have to check yourself to make sure there are no mistakes when you put it up. That English owns as a lingua franca. We can't really say English owns status, but you can talk about status that English has as a lingua franca in the world. Lingua franca is a language have these features. This is not correct grammar. You need a relative clause here. A lingua franca, and here you need can be defined as a language that has these features, not great style, the following features maybe. Negotiability, variability, depends on users' familiarity, and open structure could absorb different languages. Okay, that's very confusing. You've paraphrased, but not successfully, because I can't really understand. Also, you've got no punctuation here. What the specific factors contribute to the rise are the economic. Okay, this is not very good language structure here. Okay, so you probably need to rewrite that. No, you do need to rewrite that. You're starting with a rhetorical question, and then turning it into one of those sentence structures that I told you shouldn't use. What the specific factors are, okay? This is not, you haven't managed to do this correctly, but this is not very good academic style. So instead, say the specific factors that have contributed to the rise of English as a lingua franca are said to be economic, legal, political forces. This essay will argue about these arguments, not very good style, using the same word as a verb and a noun in the same sentence is not good style. Well, there are some other reasons why English became a lingua franca. Okay, good. It's good that you've identified the other part of the question. It will look at those factors, help. Okay, you've got a missing relative clause here. I think it would be a very good idea for you to put relative clauses into Google and to look at the explanations of relative clauses, because you seem to not be able to use them. Also ask Jonathan or Katie, whoever's your DSL teacher, to look at relative clauses with you. Evidence is singular, not plural. Okay, I think it's fairly clear that the question is actually saying that there are numerous factors, and it's asking you to what extent, I think the question, I can't remember the question right now, but I think it's asking you to what extent can the political, legal, and economic factors also explain the rise of English as a lingua franca. Now, you've rightly identified that there are some other factors. You haven't said what they are. I think you should do that. But simply to say that your thesis is that both factors together contributed to the rise of English, you're just repeating the question. I think you need to answer to what extent political, economic, and legal were the reasons for the rise, and to what extent the other reasons were the reasons for the rise. So you need to be able to say what your position is. To what extent were the reasons the traditional reasons that have been given, and to what extent the other reasons. So I think you haven't quite understood the question properly, judging by the thesis statement that you've got there. So think again, and perhaps talk about it with some other people that are doing the same question, because I think nobody's quite got this question yet. Or at least from these introductions, I would say nobody's quite understood it yet. Okay, and Ruckland's made a good point about single quotes. It's correct. Okay, shame there's no other feedback there. Because if I looked at this again, I'm sure I'd find other problems, like spacing and so on. And I'm sure more peer feedback would have helped you find other mistakes as well, even ones that I don't find. But the marker will be finding all of them. Okay, how many have we done? Is that another 3? Yes, I think it is. So let's pause there.